We are live for another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be breaking down UFC 314. Absolutely sick card, almost top to bottom. There's a few fights that, we could do without, but they got to fill it up a little bit. It's 13 fights. Most of them are really good. There's some good betting opportunities, in my opinion. I've only got 2 bets so far, and I do have a bunch that I'm looking at, a lot of dogs that I'm looking to target, as per usual. But before we jump into it, as always, we're going to recap last week's card. We're going to talk about that real quick, and then we'll jump into UFC 314 and we'll talk about it. So before I do that, let's catch up with the chat over here. Daz, what's up, my brother? Thank you for tuning in. It is going to be a fun card. Let's go indeed. Jussie Q, Chase Hooper fight week. Yes, sir. Daz saying Chase going to smash when watch tape. What a progression. Yeah, he's improved a lot. He's come a long way from when I was trying to fade him with Pete, is it Barnett or Barrett? I forget. Pete, tried to fade him with him. Did fade him with Steve Peterson. It was a long time ago, though. Oh, and I faded him with Alex Caceres. It was one of the very first cards that I was betting, if not the first. I think it was UFC 250. But, all right, let's recap last week. Last week, we had UFC Vegas 105. We did end up profiting 3.39 units, came back from a little bit of a deficit early on in the card. So we started it off. We had Uran Sadi Baldiev. That lost at plus 140. I had a unit on him. Just didn't come through. He ended up being a little bit too small, a little bit underweight for heavyweight. Obviously, he was moving up in weight. He did hurt Budai in the 3rd round, but he did the old classic, ooh, I hurt him. Now let me try to wrestle. And pretty much cost himself the fight, but it is what it is. I'm not super mad about that shot. Then Estela Nunes plus 625 for a quarter unit. I mean, it's a good bet. It was a good bet. It didn't cash, but it was a good bet. We had Chang Ho Lee minus 130 for 1.3 units to win 1. That cashed. Pretty much dominated Romeus. I mean, it was a little bit back and forth. There were moments where Romeus was on top, but ultimately Lee pulled it off. And then Pat Sabatini at plus 190 for 2 units. Probably one of the best bets I've made in a while. He looked very dominant. But I will say, when they were on the feet, I knew I was going to be nervous every time they were on the feet. I knew that. But what I didn't expect was for Pat Sabatini to start spinning. And not just once. He didn't just try to spin once. He tried to spin multiple times. And I'm just imagining it was, I remember this one fight on the Contender Series back in the day, like maybe 2-3 years ago. Leon Aliu, I think it was, the Italian guy. Forget exactly who it was, but somebody was fighting someone else, and the guy spun, and the other one just countered him off the spin and knocked him out. And I was like, that's going to happen to Pat if he keeps doing this. Luckily, he didn't, and he came through. That was a nice cash. Then I had Garule, Ode Osborne over 2.5. Ode knocked out Garule in the 2nd round, so that lost. It is what it is. I'm glad I dodged the bullet on Garule at least because I almost parlayed him. I almost laid the minus 200 straight, and I'm glad I stayed away. Ode did end up having the power to knock him out. And then we had the parlay with the Tavares Mearshart over 2.5 and the Henry Falcao over 2.5. That cashed at plus 114. I had a unit there. And then I just had GM3 round 3 sub because you got to do it when GM3 is fighting. But that didn't really come close. So like I said, 3.3 unit profit, and I will take it. Now we'll pull up the fights and we'll jump into UFC 314. What's up, MMA Clips? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't rewatched it, so I have to rewatch it. I'm biased, so I'll happily say Ulu should have won, but I don't know. And what's up, Jake? Good to see you, brother. All he knows is that Gore is cooked on Saturday. You better knock on wood, man. But all right, let me pull up the fights. Let me share my screen. Okay. Perfect. There we are. All right, let's rock and roll. First fight of the night, we've got Nora Cornolle versus Hailey Cowan. Nora is going to be 8-2-0. She's 35 years old. She's 5'7" with a 67-inch reach. Hailey Cowan, she's going to be 7-3-0. She's 33, so she's 2 years younger, 1 inch taller, and she's going to be at a 2-inch reach advantage. So I'll started with this. I haven't fully taped this fight. This is the one of the only fights that I haven't really gone into depth with. I've taped it a little bit. I'm familiar with both, obviously. And look, for me personally, it's probably dog or pass. In terms of making a pick, I'm not really sure. Got to tape it a little bit more. I guess I lean maybe Nora a little bit just because she's a much better striker and she does have a lot of power. And Cohen's kind of flat-footed, kind of stiff, pretty hittable. And I could see her getting hurt and Nora just winning minutes. But Stalker pass, at least pre-tape, because Cowan can grapple. I know that. She's not the best wrestler in the world, but she's a pretty good grappler. She's a pretty good wrestler. She's got decent jiu-jitsu. She got solid jiu-jitsu. She's very physical. She's very big. She's strong, so she can take people down. It helps with that. She's not the most skillful wrestler, but the physicality definitely helps. And Nora's takedown defense isn't the greatest. So, like I said, I got to tape it a bit more. Stalker pass for me, but it's hard to get to Cowan because I don't really know where her mind's at. She's got all that drama going on with her husband. Like, I'm not going to get into it, but it was a whole thing, and it's some pretty serious stuff. So I don't know how that's going. And she is training at pound for pound Muay Thai over in Colorado, which I do like. That's good. That's going to be good for the cardio. It's a good camp in general. She's training with people like Miranda Maverick. And Cornolle can be taken down. Cornolle can be out-grappled. That is definitely a hole in her game. She's a striker, and she doesn't have the best takedown defense. She doesn't have the best ground game once she's on her back. I mean, Jocelyn Edwards was out-grappling her, and that's usually Jocelyn Edwards' weakness is getting taken down. So I have to think that Cowan's the side in terms of a betting perspective, but as of now, I don't have much interest. I'll tape it. I'll see what happens. And you can get all my bets, my notes, my breakdowns through my Dub Club. The link's in the description of this video. Use Couch Warrior Pod for a promo code. It should get you 20% off on your first month. And yeah, you can get all my stuff there. And you can still join the Discord for free too. The link is also in the description of the video. You won't get my bets and stuff, but you'll get all our discussions and all that good stuff. There's still 300 of us in there talking fights all the time. All right, next up, we've got Tresean Gore versus Marco Tulio. Hold on. There we go. Gore is going to be 5'2" He's 30 years old, 6 feet tall with a 75-inch reach. On the other side, Tulio, he's going to be 13-1-0. He's 30 as well. He's going to be the same height, and he's going to have pretty much the same reach. So, you know, there's a lot of takes on Twitter this week, a lot of different opinions, a lot of hot takes, a lot of interesting things being said. By far the craziest I've seen so far this week, I think, is that Tresean Gore has elite jiu-jitsu because of his 2 guillotines in a row. I don't have the energy these days to really rant about these things anymore, but that's one of the craziest things I've ever heard. But in terms of the actual fight, I think Tulio's kind of got him covered. I think if you want to parlay Tulio, I think that's fine. I wouldn't go crazy because Gore is athletic. Gore is extremely powerful, and he's not bad either. You know, he's green. He only has 7 pro fights, but he's a good fighter. He's not bad at all. He's just green, and I don't really think he's spectacular anywhere. I don't really see him taking Tulio down. I don't really see him subbing Tulio, certainly not with a guillotine. I don't really see him outstriking Tulio. I could see him catching Tulio because he does hit really hard, does Gore. But outside of some big moment like that where he catches Tulio and knocks him out or something along those lines, I don't really see it. I think Tulio's a much cleaner striker. I think Tulio's a much more developed fighter. He's way more well-rounded. He's more skillful pretty much everywhere. I think the only aspect that he's given up to Gore is power and maybe pure athleticism. But even then, like, Tulio's athletic too. He's a good fighter. And I think he's a better grappler. I think if anybody gets takedowns, it's going to be Tulio. I think if anybody gets a sub, I think it's going to be Tulio. I think he can sub Gore. I think he can knock out Gore. I think that he can beat him by decision. I think that this is Tulio all day. So I'm fine with the price. I'm fine with him as a parlay piece. I would just be, cautious. I wouldn't put the house on it because at the end of the day, Gore does have a lot of power. Gore does hit hard, and it's MMA. Tulio can be caught. This is only his second UFC fight. Gore at least has more UFC experience. He's been in the UFC since he's been 3-0. So, yeah, it's Tulio for me, and we can move on. Not much to break down there. I think it's a bit of a levels fight. Next up, we've got Sumudaerji versus Mitch Raposo. Su is going to be 16-7-0. He's 29, 5'8" with a 72-inch reach. Raposo 9-2-0. He's 26, so he's 3 years younger. He's going to be 3 inches shorter, though, and he's given up just about 8 inches in a reach, which is pretty significant. So I know a lot of people like Raposo this week. I've seen a lot of Raposo bets. I've seen a lot of people saying they like him, and I can understand it. I don't think it's a crazy take to like him here. Sumudaerji, at the end of the day, can be taken down. He's always been a little bit deficient in the grappling. Raposo, he is a wrestler by trade. I think he wrestled in high school. I don't know if he wrestled in college or not. I wasn't able to really find anything, but he might have. I'm just not sure. But I do know that he wrestled in high school for sure. He was at 105, which is crazy. Not that crazy. He was a kid. So, It makes sense, I guess. But, you know, he does come from a wrestling background. We have seen him wrestle. These days, that's one of the reasons I'm not super hot on him in this fight is I understand that he does wrestle and that that he can wrestle and that he's a good wrestler, but like he doesn't really use it, you know. And if you watch my stuff, you know, normally I kind of push back towards the narratives of, oh, he fell in love with his hands. Oh, he fell in love with his hands. I think it's kind of a stupid narrative, but it's kind of bitten me it's costed me a few times going against that narrative. And there's probably some truth to it with some fighters. And I think there might be some truth to it with Raposo. I think that he went into the regionals after losing, you know, he lost on the Ultimate Fighter. Ludwig Shalunian just out-grappled him completely. Then he went on the Contender Series. He fought Jake Hadley, and he did take Hadley down twice, but ended up slowing down a little bit. Hadley took the back and submitted him in the second. And then he goes on the regionals and he starts fighting these guys, and he's almost purely fighting on the feet. He's not shooting at all. And I understand why. It's because those guys aren't good, and he felt no threat whatsoever from them standing. So he said, okay, let me just stand with these guys and I'll be fine. And he was fine because it was terrible competition. I mean, Flavio Carvalho, he's like 38 years old. Tyler Smith is just not great. I think he's like 4-4 now. Justin Valentine, also not great. And it took him 4 rounds to knock out Justin Valentine. 4 rounds. And then, oh yeah, Jay Viola. Jay Viola was he was 47. Jay Viola was 47 years old when that fight happened. He's 50 now. So he just fought like terrible competition, outstruck them. So he didn't really grapple. He did grapple against Jay, but that was it. And then he fights Andre Lima, comes into the UFC, fights Andre Lima. I actually backed him there because I've been fading Andre Lima to my own detriment. And he shot what, one time? A couple times? Got one takedown, held him down for like 10 seconds, and that was about it. Look, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I could see him going for it. I could see him trying to wrestle Sue. But like I have a few problems. First off, I think Sue's takedown defense has improved. I know Charles Johnson isn't some kind of prolific wrestler, but he took some time off between that Tim Elliott fight and the Charles Johnson fight, and he came back, and the grappling did look better. The takedown defense did look better. And, you know, there was that one instance where Charles Johnson hurt him, and it was funny because that whole sequence really reminded me of Sumudaerji Matt Schnell, just in reverse, because in the Schnell fight, I was there live, Sue hurts him, and then they end up going to the ground, and then Schnell throws up the triangle, and I forget exactly how it ended up, but Schnell ends up on top and ends up subbing him, or ends up on bottom and subbing with the triangle. I don't remember off the top of my head. Regardless, when Sue fought Charles, Charles drops him, and then Sue throws up the triangle, and then there's that whole scrambling situation. So I do think that his takedown defense has improved, maybe not leagues and bounds, but I think it has gotten better. And you got to remember, at the end of the day, he's 29 years old still. He's training at Team Alpha Male. He's at a great camp. And what I did like to see was I liked how he was throwing up those subs against Charles. When Charles hurt him, that triangle was nice. That's not something we ever saw in Sue's game before in the UFC. And all of a sudden now he's throwing up triangles that are actually good and have substance to him. So I thought that was a good thing to see on the Sue side, that now he's actually using that jiu-jitsu and training it. So that's my first thing, is I think that Sue's takedown defense isn't as bad as it used to be. And then I also just think that Mitch is a good wrestler, but like A, his control isn't that good. And then B, like I said, he just doesn't really go to it, you know? And I just think that, like, even a Tim Elliott, I think Tim Elliott is a much better pure wrestler than Mitch Raposo. And then Schnell took him down, yeah, but it was in the middle of like absolute chaos. So I personally think Sue's going to win this fight. I think Sue's going to be able to keep it on the feet. I think that Mitch does hit hard. He does have a lot of power, sure, but he's only really knocking out super low level competition. He didn't come anywhere near hurting Hadley or Shalinian, or he definitely didn't come anywhere near hurting Andre Lima. So I don't really see him hurting Sue, who I consider pretty durable. And then his output is kind of garbage too, Mitch. Like, Mitch doesn't throw really. Even in those regionals that I was talking about against the lower level competition, even then he's not really throwing. He's like very just waiting there, throwing the overhand, jab, overhand right. and just the output isn't quite there. I think Su's pace is going to be much higher. I think Su's going to throw a lot more on the feet. I think Su hits harder. I think Su is clearly a better striker. And I think Su now is dangerous in the grappling too. And not going to lie, I'm looking at that Sumudaerji sub prop at plus 1,700, and I'm thinking to myself, might be worth a sprinkle. I haven't done it yet, but it's something I'm considering because I wouldn't be shocked if he submitted Mitch. It would be crazy, but I wouldn't be shocked because I know he's training and I know he's working on it. I know he's a Team Alpha Male. I saw the little wrinkles in his game being added in the Charles Johnson fight. So, yeah, long story short, I think Sumudaerji is going to win. I don't hate the price on him now at minus 160. I haven't made any moves yet because I've never bet on Su before. I usually stay away from him or fade him because I didn't like his grappling. But, you know, you have to acknowledge improvements. And I thought that the Charles Johnson fight, even though he lost, it was a pretty good showing. I think Charles Johnson would tune up Mitch Raposo, and I don't think it would be even a close fight. I think Charles would cook him. So, yeah, I like Su here. If the price comes down a bit more, I could probably get there, but we shall see. Chad agreeing with me over here. Su all day. Su going to kick his legs. Su has upped his grappling game. Yeah, I'm seeing the Su Tulio parlay a lot. I'm really worrying about Tulio, honestly. Everybody's parlaying him. Everybody. He's like the main leg in everybody's parlays, and it's a little scary. Meatball saying Su going to tune him up. That's how I kind of see it. You know, like Raposo's, like this is a matchup where normally I would be on the wrestler, but I'm just not super high on Raposo right now, personally. All right, next up we got Sedriques Dumas versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. Dumas is going to be 10-2-0. He's 29, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. Oleksiejczuk 19-9-0, 30 years old. He's 1 year older. He's going to be 2 inches shorter, and he's going to be at a 5-inch reach disadvantage. I feel like Michal is going to beat up Dumas, personally. I feel like he's going to cook him. I think he's going to knock him out. I'm thinking like second or third round. I'm not super high on Dumas or his skill set. He's solid. He's not a bad fighter. He's athletic. He's big. He's tall. He's strong. He's got solid wrestling, solid grappling, pretty good jiu-jitsu in his own right, decent striking. But I think decent is just about as far as you can go with the striking. I don't think it's very good. I don't think the output is good at all. I mean, I know that the output isn't good at all. I think that he has some semblance of power, but he doesn't have all that much power. He's not really knocking people out left and right. And I think he's gassy. That's one of my primary things here, and why I like Michal is I think Dumas is gassy. I think he slows down, and I think that Michal puts on a crazy pace. Michal is constantly on the front foot, and I think you put somebody like Dumas on the back foot, and you start ripping to the body the way that Michal does, and I can't really see Dumas taking it. I can't really see it, and I can't see him really outstriking Michal. I know Michal has a really awkward style to his striking. He's kind of loopy a lot of the time, but he's a good striker. He's a good boxer. His kicks are solid. And my main thing is I really like the body work. He targets that body like it's his job. And like I said, Dumas's gas tank is just not that good. I know there's a lot of weight being put into Michal being with the fight nerds now, which is interesting because how on earth do you go from Ankos MMA over in Poland to fight nerds in Brazil? It's kind of a crazy leap. He's over there with his brother. And I actually think his brother is better than him. I think we'll eventually see his brother in the UFC as well. But you know, being at the fight nerds, it probably won't hurt. We have seen that the fight nerds visitors aren't quite as good as the ones who are there all the time. I mean, the ones who are there all the time, we all know them. Gene Silva fighting on this card, Kai Barallo, Rufi, Pratesh, who's fighting in 2 weeks. Kanan Krzyzewski is a guy who's been there, and he sucks, but he doesn't suck. He's good, but he just hasn't been doing too well. But you know, like people like Bruna Brazil, who came there a little bit later. People like Mayra Buena Silva, who just got there before her last fight, I think. You know, they haven't been doing too hot. So I don't know if it's going to change him overnight, but I don't think it can hurt. And if anything, I do think it'll help a little bit. But I'm not really considering it too much in my capping, personally. I think regardless of where he's training, whether it's Ankos MMA or fight nerds, I think he probably beats Dumas. I think that he should be able to just beat up that body. I think Dumas is going to get tired, and I'm kind of thinking Michal gets him out of there in the second round, maybe the third, if it goes that far. I just like I don't think Dumas is really that high level. I'm not impressed by his wins at all. I backed Denise Tiyulin against him and a pretty big underdog price, and he did a pretty good job. Denise did, and Dumas not so much. I mean, he got taken down by a boxer like 3 times, reversed a few times, and then there was the what was it? The Azaitar fight was a horrible look, if you ask me. Azaitar is just pure muscle and steroids, and it was a really close fight, which is not a good look. So, yeah, I like Oleksiejczuk here. I think he gets it done. I think he knocks him out in the second. That's my personal prediction. Gabriella 6'9" agreeing with me. Michal covers everywhere. Daz saying, like Michal at our new favorite gym. Nerds, at least, they do have a good game plan, and he's training with some good guys there. Jay's MMA, what's up, brother? Saying Michal as well. All right, we can move on. Next up, we've got Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa. Darren Elkins, he's going to be 29, 11-0. He's 40 years old, 5'10" with the 71-inch reach. Erosa, 30, 11-0. 35, he's 5 years younger. He's going to be 3 inches taller, and he's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage. Erosa at almost minus 400 is not something I thought I would see in 2025. He's a guy who I'm kind of used to being an underdog, and an underdog that I really like to back. But this feels a little bit wrong, you know? I mean, look, is he going to submit Darren Elkins? I don't really think so. Is he going to knock out Darren Elkins? I don't think he's going to knock him out cold. I do think that he can maybe cut him up because that scar tissue is like, he has more scar tissue than he does just regular skin. So I could see Erosa just landing some shots, maybe some elbows or kicks that end up opening up Elkins and we get a TKO. But I don't really see Erosa finishing him personally. And then I really don't see Elkins finishing Erosa. Elkins isn't a guy with a lot of power. Elkins has a decent submission grappling game of his own, but it's usually he's pacing guys, tiring them out and subbing them. And I don't really see him pacing Erosa. I don't really see him subbing Erosa. So I think it's going to be a relatively competitive fight. I mean, Erosa's a better striker. Erosa's probably got better jiu-jitsu, or at least more dangerous jiu-jitsu. But Elkins is a better pure wrestler. Erosa can be taken down. Both of them have solid cardio. I'm not really worried about the cardio for either guy. Yeah, I mean, I can't even really blame anybody who goes for Elkins here. I think the price is probably a little bit ridiculous because I just personally don't think the fight finishes. Now, if you think Erosa has finishing upside here, by all means, that minus 300 might have some value maybe. He's the bigger, longer guy, better striker, more dangerous for sure, in my opinion. So if you can see the finish, then maybe it's worth it. I don't think it is. I wouldn't parlay him or anything like that. I mean, Elkins is a very grindy dude. He's a guy who will always fight for your money. Whether he wins or loses, he will fight for it. And he's a guy who's got amazing cardio, very good pace, and good wrestling. So, and historically, he's pretty durable and very hard to submit. So, considering the fact that I think it goes over, Elkins is probably a decent dog shot. I don't think I'll be doing it, but I don't blame anyone who does. I can definitely see the angle. What does interest me a little bit is the overs are a little interesting to me because, like I said, I don't really see a finish, and I'm not really sure what a finish would look like in this fight outside of like a doctor's stoppage because Elkins is just bleeding too much. So I don't hate these numbers. You know, I'm seeing over 2.5 at minus 115 at Pick'em. I'm seeing fight goes at plus 105. I don't hate those at all. So that's something I'm looking at for sure. That's on my list of possible bets, but I haven't done anything yet. Let's see what we got in the chat. Hello, thank you for tuning in. Ajay's saying Elkins is an absolutely intriguing dog pick. Yeah, I can 100% understand the angle for an Elkins play. I don't see how Erosa covers minus 400 personally, even though I do think he wins. Dad's saying cashed out my damage bet plus 370. Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't think I really want money on a side. Definitely sweaty playing Erosa. Erosa's a guy you play at plus 200, you know, plus 150, depending who he's fighting. Minus 400, I don't know. Damage bleeds so much. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He just bleeds too much, and especially now with the doctors and the refs, it's so you never know what to expect. You might ask him what color is the sky, and then Elkins is going to take 2 seconds too long to respond, and the doctor's going to wave it off. You know, like just probably best not to touch it. Next fight up, though, we've got Chase Hooper versus Jim Miller. Hooper, he's going to be 15-3-1, 25 years old, which is bananas. 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. Miller on the other side, he's going to be 38, 18-0, 41 years old. He's 5'8" with the 7, so he's 5 inches shorter, and he's given up 3 inches in reach. So I don't really have a ton to say here, honestly. I mean, I think Hooper wins. I can't really tell you how he wins. I honestly don't know. Maybe he can submit Jim Miller. Maybe he can knock him out like TKO, ground and pound when Jim's a little bit more tired. I kind of lean towards a decision. As greasy as that might be, what does that look like? Fight goes to plus 180. Over 2.5 minus 105. That's kind of a big difference, huh? Fight goes plus 180, but over 2.5 is minus 105. That's interesting. And then what's Hooper decision? Because I don't really see Jim winning a decision. And Hooper decision's plus 225. Don't hate that. Yeah, I'm not really sure how this even plays out. I don't know how. Like, I've never been super high on Hooper, but that was back in the day. I mentioned it earlier in the show. Like, I did fade him with Pete Barrett. Barrett or Barnett? That drives me crazy. I forget. I faded him with Steve Peterson. I faded him with Alex Caceres. But since then, I mean, I don't remember if I did anything with this fight. I don't think I touched this one. If I did, it was Chase, but I don't think I did. I might have bet Levitt. I don't remember. Slava, I'm pretty sure I bet, and he cooked Slava. He absolutely cooked him, dropped him, subbed him. That was crazy. And then I definitely didn't touch this one. But yeah, Miller's just a tough dude. Miller hits really hard. Miller's got good jiu-jitsu in his own right. He's a good wrestler. I know he's old as hell now. He's 41 years old. And in fight years, he's probably closer to 141 years old with the amount of damage this guy has taken. I mean, he's a legend. But you know, he can probably still knock out Hooper. I know Hooper's improved a lot, but like skill improvements aren't going to really change your chin. Now, filling out that frame, adding all that muscle, that might help with the chin for sure. And he's definitely filled out. He's a lot bigger. He's more physical. He's not just some lanky kid anymore. Like he's he's a big dude now. Yeah, I don't think we should waste too much time here. Hooper's like almost minus 1,000 now. I don't feel like that's right. But at the same time, I feel like Hooper probably wins, and I guess I can technically see him winning in any fashion, whether it's finish or not. So, yeah, I won't waste everyone's time. I like Hooper to win. He's minus 800, so I'm not sure what you can really do with it. Like, you shouldn't parlay that, because how shitty would it be if you parlay Hooper at minus 900, and then Jim Miller does Jim Miller things and knocks him out in the first round? That would suck. So, yeah, Hooper for me, but I think it's a pretty clear pass. Miller tough, might go the distance. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I feel like if you put a gun to my head and tell me how does Hooper win, I lean towards a decision, and it's pretty decent plus money. So I don't hate that look, but I don't think I'll get there. Next up, we got Virna Jandiroba versus Xiaonan. Jandiroba 21-3-0, 36 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Jan 19-4-0, 35. She's 1 year younger, 2 inches taller, and she's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. So, classic striker versus striker versus grappler matchup here. It's been a long day, guys. Sorry. It's a pretty binary fight, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if Virna does not get takedowns, Jan probably cooks her. She's a much cleaner striker. She's faster. Her combinations are really nice. She's really, really skilled on the feet, really good at creating angles, circling out. Everything she does on the feet is very good. Good defense. And she hits pretty hard, too, for the weight class. So I do think that she's going to be the much, much, much better striker here. And she does have the big cage to work with. But, you know, people talk about the big cage and people say how, like I remember when Ricky Simone was fighting Mario Bautista and they were in the small cage and people were like, or were they in the big one? Wait, let me get this straight before I say it. They were right. So they were in a small cage and people were saying like, oh, that's going to help Ricky. It'll be easier for him to take him down. But the thing is, if you have a guy who's primarily getting takedowns closer to the fence or off the fence, then a small cage might benefit the striker if they can use that fence to defend the takedowns. And that was part of my read and why I went with Bautista back then. So with the big cage, yeah, it could help Jan because her movement is good. But at the same time, if Virna's taking her down in the open mat, not by the fence, if she's taking her down in the center or close to it, it's going to make it that much harder for Jan to get back up. And Virna can do that. Virna's a pretty good wrestler. I've heard some people kind of shitting on her wrestling. I think it's pretty good. I mean, she's not a D1 wrestler. She's not Tatiana Suarez, but she's good. She can get people down. And I think while maybe her wrestling isn't the best in the world, her control is really good. And most of her fights, you look at it, she needs one takedown. Similar to Pat Sabatini last week, right? He took down Brito. That was it. That was the round. That's kind of how it is with Virna most of the time, is she's taking people down and it stays there. And the thing with Jan is Jan's takedown defense has gotten better. Like, I'm not sitting here and just looking at the Carla Esparza fight and saying, oh, Carla did that, so Virna will 100% do that. That was a long time ago. And Jan has learned since then, and she's definitely improved her grappling. You know, she even was able to get some takedowns of her own against Weili. She got more takedowns against Weili than Suarez did because she was able to actually set it up with some hands. But my problem is, once she's on her back, I don't know that she's improved that much yet. I just haven't seen much of it. And from what I have seen, it's really only been the Weili fight, and she didn't look that good off her back. You know, she did get submitted in that first round. That was the most BS call of all time. Anyone defending Jan there had a ticket on Jan, including the referee, probably. She was out. She was 100% out. It's 100% against the rules for a referee to pick up a fighter and help them walk back to their damn corner. And that's exactly what happened there. She got walked back to her corner and she got subbed. And Weili took her back multiple times in that fight. It wasn't just that one fight, that first round where she subbed her. She took her back multiple times, and she took her down like 6 times, had a ton of control time. And Weili is the best in the world. Probably, like, she might be pound for pound the best in the world, definitely in the division. But in terms of pure jiu-jitsu and like ground game, once they're on the mat, I think Virna is still better than Weili. And I don't think there's much room for debate there. So if Virna can get Jan down, I don't really see Jan getting back up. And for me, in a striker versus grappler matchup, if I'm getting a close price tag and, you know, minus 150, whatever, that might not be the closest 60%, but I think that's fair. I think that's a fair price for the grappler versus a striker, when I think that the grappler is going to have a lot of success if the fight hits the mat. Now, like I said, if Virna can't do it, Jan will probably beat her up. We've kind of seen that story with Virna. We saw that in the Rebosch fight. But I kind of lean towards Virna being able to get those takedowns and her just being too much on the ground. Now, whether she subs Jan or it's a decision, I don't know. I think either is live. But I do lean towards Virna getting it done here. Going into it, I thought maybe I would like Jan, but which is uncharacteristic because I like grapplers over strikers most of the time. But I thought, you know, maybe this is a mispriced fight. I remember seeing Jan at like plus 165. But no, I like Virna. I think she's going to get it done with the grappling. I know, like, I've heard some people talking about the Lupi fight with Virna and how Lupi was able to defend some of the takedowns. I think Lupi's takedown defense is very good and much better than most people in the division. And I lean towards it being better than Jan. And that was a winnable fight for Lupi because styles make fights, and Lupi just fought like a moron. But yeah, I mean, this is a winnable fight for Jan too. If she can actually defend all the takedowns and stuff them and keep it on the feet, it's a winnable fight. I don't think Virna's like 100% gonna get it done, but I do think she's gonna win personally. And who asked this? UFC picks and balances. Does your UFC really want Virna to win? I don't think they care. Personally, I don't think they care because neither of these women is beating Weili. Both of these women are really high-level mixed martial artists. They're amazing. They're really, really good in their own specific areas, but they're not beating Weili. And from what I understand, I don't think Weili's giving up the title, even if she does move up. If she does, then the UFC would probably prefer Jan because, you know, the Chinese market is huge for them, and she is a striker and not a grappler. So maybe they would want Jan to win, but I don't think they care personally. Not that I even consider that in my capping, because the UFC could want whatever they want. And maybe, if we're talking about Patty, maybe they can influence decisions. I don't know. But I don't think they care. For this one, I don't think they care much. Like, if Jan wins, they do another Weili fight, and Weili wins again. If Virna wins, they do a Weili fight. At least it's a fresh matchup then, so maybe they would prefer Virna. But Virna's not going to beat Weili. So, yeah, I don't think it really matters what they want, but I don't really think they want one thing or another here. Virna, Chihuihui's the locks. Okay. Virna going, okay. You guys are crazy. All right. Let's move on. Still on the prelims, and we got some sick fights. All right. Next up, we have Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. Ige, he's going to be 18-9-0, 33 years old, 5'7" with the 71-inch reach. Woodson on the other side, 13-1-1, 32. He's 1 year younger. He's going to be, oh boy. Bear with me while I do math. Okay, 5 inches gets us to 6 feet. Okay, Woodson's 7 inches taller, and he's going to be at a 7-inch reach advantage. So this is a tricky one for me. I mean, I think Woodson's probably going to win. I think Woodson's probably going to win because I just think the size is going to make a huge difference because of their styles, because of the fact that Ige is a power puncher, because of the fact that Woodson's a really good counter striker, a really good striker at range. He uses those kicks really well to target the body. He's very lengthy. He knows how to use it. Good jabs, good 1-2s down the pipe. And I also just feel like Ige's not a good minute winner. He's really not. He's a moment winner. He pretty much always has been. He wins off of big moments. If he's winning a decision, he's winning it because he stole rounds off of big moments. He's knocking people out. That's how he wins. Big moments or knockouts. Not really anything else. He's just not a minute winner. Now against Lerone Murphy, it was close, It was close. He dropped Murphy in the first, won that round. Then Murphy wins the second. And then the third round, Ige ends up on top. Then Murphy ends up on top for like a minute and a half. And I talked about this last week going into the Murphy fight. I think Murphy won that fight off of those last 10 seconds because in the last 10 seconds or like 13 seconds, they went back up on the feet, and Murphy was the one who let it rip. He hit Ige with like 3 knees. I think he threw an elbow, threw a couple combinations, and because he was the one who polished off that round with more emphasis, I think he won that round, even though Ige actually got more control than he did in that round. So to me, that kind of shows Ige wasn't really thinking about the minute winning. He wasn't really thinking like, oh, I controlled this guy, but then he controlled me. Like, I should probably let it rip on the feet right now. No, he kind of just sat there while Murphy just let it rip on him and just kneed him and punched him. So I worry about his minute winning against Woodson, who is a good minute winner. He's a very good minute winner. And turns out he does have some power after all. Now, Padilla kind of just ran straight into it. Kind of reminded me of like, I think it was the Menefield-Oberg fight where Menefield just ran straight into a knockout. But I do just think that Woodson's going to be a little bit too much. I think the size is going to be a little bit too much. Now, I'm not ruling out a Dan Ige dog shot. I could still get there because I don't think this is a wash. I don't think Woodson's just going to come out here and just cook Ige. I don't think he's going to knock Ige out. I'm pretty certain about that. I don't think he's going to submit Ige, right? So that leaves a decision. If Woodson's winning by decision, do I want to be on Woodson when he's minus 170? I mean, probably not. Probably not. Like, I'm definitely not going to be laying that money line. For me, the money line's dog or pass because I could see Ige possibly knocking Woodson out. Woodson's been hurt before. Erosa hurt him. Saldana hurt him, dropped him twice. I'll never forget that moment, man. I think I had 2 units on Saldana. It was either 1 or 2 units at like really, really big underdog odds, like plus 200, something like that. My God, that was such a brutal. At least, thank God it was at least a draw. Because if I ended up losing that bet after all that, I would have been really sick to my stomach. At least I got my money back. But that was crazy. And Saldana did get him with the left hook. And Ige does have dangerous hooks. Ige does have a lot of power. Ige does back people up. And how do you handle somebody so much bigger than you? How do you handle somebody like Woodson who needs the range, who needs those kicks? you back them up and you don't give them space. And Ige's a guy who will come out here and he will not give you space. He's going to be in your face the entire time. He's going to push you back. He's going to put you on your back foot, and he's going to do his damn best to get you out of there. So if I'm making a bet, I'd rather bet Ige. I haven't done it yet. I don't know if I will. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait it out, and I'm going to see what happens with the price, because I haven't been seeing a ton of enthusiasm about Ige, and I've been seeing a good amount of love for Woodson. So I'm going to sit back and just wait, and we'll see what happens. Maybe after the face-offs, when everybody realizes just how tremendous the size difference is going to be, maybe the price will come down even more, and I can get a better shot on Ige. But as of now, I'm going to pass. I'm picking Woodson to win, but I just think his margins are kind of slim. So that's why I don't have much interest in him, and why I'd be interested in the underdog possibly. But in terms of just making a pick for the purposes of the show, I will pick Woodson. Woodson army rises. That's what I'm hearing. Daz saying Ige did better than Murphy versus Emmett. I don't remember him doing necessarily that great against Emmett either, though. And didn't he lose against Emmett? Pretty sure he did lose to Emmett. Woodson doesn't like anything to the body. If I was Ige, I'd be going, yeah. And I mean, it's not going to be hard for him to hit the body because of the size. He just has to punch straight. He doesn't have to punch down. He just has to punch straight. To hit the head, he's going to have to go like this. But to hit the body, you just have to go like this. So body work could be smart here. Woodson's got a very funky build. I think leg kicks would be smart here. Take out those giant legs, go for the body, back him up, back him up, back him up, back him up, make him uncomfortable, and land your big shots. I think Ige could get it done. So, yeah. Dogger pass, and let's move on. All right, we're getting to the good stuff. First fight of the main card, we've got Nikita Krylov versus Dominick Reyes. Krylov, 39-0. He's 32 years old, 6'3" with a 77-inch reach. Reyes on the other side, 14-4-0. He's 35. He's 3 years older. Going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to have the same reach. So, fun fight. Really fun fight. My main problem and why I haven't really been able to do anything is Krylov's been out for a while. He's been out for 2 years. I don't like inactivity. I talk about it all the time, almost every single week. I really don't like inactivity, even if there's a reason for it. I just don't like it. And I'm also pretty sure he's coming off of a shoulder injury. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I'm pretty certain about it. 80% certain, let's call it. But that's a concern, right? At chalk, that's kind of a concern. But that said, if he's okay, if he's recovered from whatever injury or whatever surgeries he's had, I think he's probably going to beat Reyes. And it's so funny how nobody liked Reyes after he got knocked out by Spann. Everybody was done with Reyes after this little loss streak over here. When he got knocked out with that jab, everyone was done with Reyes. And then he knocks out Jacoby and he beats Anthony Smith, and now everyone is running to the window to bet on him. I've seen so many Dominick Reyes plays, and I mean, I get it. Reyes is good, and I haven't thought that he was completely done. That's why I backed him against what's his damn name? Dustin Jacoby. Like, I backed him there, but he was big plus money. Now he is an underdog. He's like, what, plus 170? Plus 160. And I get it. He's got elite takedown defense. He was able to stuff almost everything from John Jones, but I don't know that he's going to stuff everything from Krylov, personally. I think Krylov could take him down if Krylov shoots. And Krylov's also just an explosive, extremely powerful guy. His cardio is solid. He does slow down. He does slow down, Krylov. And Reyes, he's got good cardio. He could go all 15. Maybe his cardio is better, but I feel like Krylov is a lot more durable. I think Krylov hits harder. I think he has much more finishing upside, especially early. I think most of the finishing upside lies with Krylov. I think that he has more ways to win because he has the grappling, because he has the knockout opportunities, because I think that he's a better minute winner overall. So for me, I have to like Krylov here. And I'm thinking about getting to him in some kind of capacity, whether it's the money line or a knockout or maybe like an early play. I'm not sure, but this is a spot that I taped early and a spot that I have on my list to go back and retape because I'm not feeling super comfortable with my read, and there's all these people on Reyes, so I'm not going to let that talk me into a Reyes play, but maybe I'll reconsider my Krylov, my desire to play Krylov, depending on how I see the tape once I look at it one more time. I like to a lot of fights I like to retape more than once because, you know, you never know. Like, you might be tired one day, you might have other things on your mind, and you're not paying enough attention. Then you come back to it the second time, and all of a sudden your read's completely different. So this is a fight I want to come back to. This is a fight I want to reconsider just in general and see where I'm at. But I do lean towards Krylov, and I think Krylov can knock him out personally. I mean, I can't imagine that much has changed since the Ryan Spann fight, that if Ryan Spann, who does hit really hard, but that was a damn jab, if he can knock you out with the jab, I think Krylov can take you out. And I personally lean towards Krylov not finishing him, and I lean towards it probably being early. But I've always been really high on Krylov. I really have always been high on him. I always thought he was a dark horse. I always thought that he could eventually be champion. I think that him versus somebody like Pereira would have been interesting. But yeah, give me Krylov here, but I'm very hesitant to get to a money line shot because of the layoff, because of the surgery that I'm pretty sure he had. If anybody can confirm that in the comments, that'll be cool. But yeah, for me, it's Krylov or pass. Definitely not going to let myself be talked into a Reyes play. Last week, I came this close to falling into the Gerald Mearshart trap that everyone was on him. Everyone was saying how much they loved him, how he would be able to outstrike Tavares, how Tavares is washed. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, do I have this wrong? It's not that I bet anything. I didn't bet a side. I had just the over, but I was picking Tavares to win, and I was passing on Mearshart, and everybody was so high on him. And I'm starting to think to myself, like, you know what? They're making good points. Like, maybe he will win. Maybe I should be taking the shot on him at plus money. And thank God I stayed away. And this is one of those spots where if it didn't stand out to me the first time I looked at it, the Reyes side, I'm definitely not going to get there. If I get to Krylov, okay, but I don't think I'll be getting to Reyes here. All right, this is one of the fights I'm looking forward to the most. I'm really excited for this one. We have Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. Rodriguez, he's going to be 19-5-0. He's 32, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Pitbull, 36-7-0. He's 37, so he's 5 years older, and he has taken a lot of damage. So in fight years, probably a bit older than that. 5'6", he's 5 inches shorter, and he is giving up 6 inches in reach. So if anybody who is somehow not familiar with Pitbull, Bellator champion, 2 divisions, absolute legend of the sport. He's probably one of the main guys outside of the UFC who's just been competing at the highest level for the longest time. He's got a knockout win over Chandler. He's got a lot of good wins on that resume. And he's a guy who, even when he was on the older side of things, when was the Boric fight? Here? No, here. So it was 2.5 years ago, so he was 35. I remember when he fought Boric, everybody was saying Boric got this. He's a younger guy. Pitbull's old. Pitbull got it done. When he took on Kennedy, a lot of people backed Jeremy Kennedy because he was the younger guy. Pitbull was a lot older now. Then he was like 36, 37. And again, Pitbull got it done. He's a really intelligent fighter. He knows his fight IQ is very high level. He knows exactly what he needs to do every single fight. He game plans accordingly. I think the closest you can get in terms of a matchup, like of somebody he's fought who's kind of like Yair, and this guy's not really like Yair, but he's the closest I can come up with, is Boric, because Boric is about the same height. I think he's like 5'10" or 5'11". He's also primarily a striker, strikes relatively long, very powerful, a lot of knees and explosive stuff, and that's kind of how Pitbull ended up taking him down a few times, as Boric kind of just jumped into things and ended up on his back. But Pitbull did wrestle there, and he's smart. He'll wrestle when he needs to, and when he doesn't think it's going to benefit him, he won't. Like, I don't see how you would watch him versus Jeremy Kennedy and be like, why aren't you wrestling Jeremy Kennedy? What logical sense would that make? Jeremy Kennedy's a wrestler who's hittable and doesn't have the best striking. So if Pitbull did his homework, why on earth would you say it's a red flag that Pitbull didn't grapple Jeremy Kennedy? It doesn't make sense for him to wrestle him. He outstruck him, and he knocked him out in the 3rd round. He paced him. And Jeremy Kennedy is a guy who's got cardio, but he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And Pitbull was ultimately able to capitalize, and he was able to get that win. The things I like about Pitbull is that fight IQ, and he's a dog. He's gonna fight for your money every single time. He's gonna fight for your money. He's gonna fight for his money. And to him, it means a lot to be here in the UFC. He definitely took a pay cut. There's no way they're paying him as much as Bellator did. He did it because he's 37 and it's now or never. And the PFL is slowly being ruined by Don Davis. But I do think they're trying to come back. PFL is trying their best. I don't blame any of the other people in the background. They're clearly trying. I just blame Don Davis and his stupidity with John Jones. But that's a topic for another video and something I've ranted about for probably 2 hours now. But I like Pitbull in general. I think he's a really good fighter. I think he's really well-rounded. I think he's got really good fight IQ. And I think that he's a guy who always comes out there and leaves nothing left. He leaves it all out there. Now, there are chin concerns, 100%. He has been knocked out. Everybody's looking at the Chihiro Suzuki fight and saying, oh, he got knocked out by this random guy in Rizzo. Suzuki's not random, first of all. If you don't watch regional MMA, fine, just say that. But Suzuki's a legit fighter, too. He's a guy who does struggle with grappling, but he got Pitbull out of there pretty early. He just caught him. He caught him with a really nice shot. Maybe not the nicest. It was kind of wild, but he caught him with a counter, and he got him. He got him out of there. It happens. It's MMA, and Yair can 1,000,000% knock him out. That's 100% on the table. I haven't even gotten to Yair yet. I've just been hyping up Pitbull. But I just think that a lot of people are discounting Pitbull because of his size, because of his age. And you got to keep in mind, this guy has been dealing with bigger people his entire career. He's been fighting at lightweight and featherweight. He's used to guys being taller than him. And, you know, the one time he goes down in weight to bantamweight and goes against Pettis, who's smaller than him, he ends up losing. I think part of that might have been him actually cutting so much weight. I don't think it's healthy for him, even though he's small in stature. He's a big guy. He's a thick dude. So if you're looking at that Pettis fight and you're saying, oh, he lost to Pettis and he's supposed to beat Yair, you got to keep in mind that he cut a ton of weight to get down there, and it's just not something he normally does because he's normally a featherweight or a lightweight. He was champ in both divisions. But I do understand the concerns with the age, and I do understand the concerns with the chin because he is fighting somebody like Yair. Now, Yair, elite striking, extremely explosive, very powerful, really, really nice kicks. He's really fast. He mixes the kicks and the hands together really, really nicely. Nasty knees, just elite striking. So on the feet, I do favor Yair by quite a bit. He's going to be faster. He's going to be able to reach Pitbull from where Pitbull can't reach him. I think the kicks are going to do a lot of good work. And I do think that he's the one who's a little bit more likely for a knockout because Yair, while he can be a little bit wilty, I think he's very durable. I think he can really take a punch. And I don't really see Pitbull knocking him out. I know Pitbull hits hard in his own right, but I don't really see him knocking Yair out. So I give the durability to Yair. I give the range striking to Yair. I give the clinch to Yair because those knees are going to be pretty easy to reach the head with the size of Pitbull. He's very small. So those knees are going to come right upstairs every single time very easily. So I think the clinch is going to go to Yair. But like Yair fades over longer stretches and fights. He definitely fades. I don't think Yair handles forward pressure all that well. He's another one of those guys who he's a kicker. He needs a space. He needs a space to operate. He needs a space to work. And you take that away from him. You put him on his back foot. It's a lot harder to kick off your back foot than it is when you're the one moving forward. So if Pitbull can put him on his back foot and start to take those weapons away, suddenly it becomes a lot closer of a fight. And Pitbull is a guy who can close the range, who can close the distance. We've seen it with him before. And I think Pitbull would be very smart to target the legs of Yair here. Pitbull has very good leg kicks. I think it would be very wise of him to go to those leg kicks early and often against Yair, beat up those legs, take away the movement. Once you take away the movement, back him up, it's going to be a lot harder for Yair to operate. And then you can't count out the wrestling either. I know everyone will say Pitbull doesn't actually wrestle. Pitbull doesn't actually wrestle. He does wrestle when he thinks he should. And I trust the guy's fight IQ. I trust his judgment. And I think that it all depends on the matchups. And that's what you need to look at. And that's what you need to consider. When you look at his fight with Jeremy Kennedy and you're thinking to yourself, oh, he didn't shoot, you should probably consider why. Is there a reason to shoot on Jeremy Kennedy when you're a better striker than him? No. So why waste the energy? I just think Pitbull's fight IQ is that good that he's considering these things. I think in this fight, he is going to wrestle. I'm pretty confident that Pitbull's going to wrestle. I'm pretty confident that he will get some takedowns. Now, Yair's not necessarily an easy guy to hold down. He's not necessarily an easy guy to he's pretty easy to hold down. He is pretty easy to hold down because he fights off his back quite a bit, but he's not easy to be on top of, I guess is the better way to say it, because Yair will throw up those knees. He will threaten to try, not the knees, the elbows. He will threaten the triangles, and he's just a guy who's going to give you hell if you're on top of him. So it's going to be tough for Pitbull. This is definitely a really hard first fight, but I do think it's a fight that Pitbull can win. I say all this just to pick Yair anyways. I'm going to pick him. I think he's the rightful favorite because of size, speed, and power. And just, I think he is the better striker at the end of the day. But it's a dog or pass for me at this line. And I don't think it's really, like, it's 100% dog or pass. Like, I'm not laying minus 200 on Yair. I'm not parlaying Yair. If you're going to play him, maybe knockout. But I think Pitbull, for the most part, is still durable. So, yeah, for me, it's Pitbull or pass. I'm thinking about it. I'm definitely thinking about it. He's at plus 170 right now, and I almost did it, but I kind of want better. I kind of want like plus 200, and I think it might get there because, you know, the casual money hasn't come in yet. Anybody betting right now on Tuesday, they're people that are at least watching the fights often. They're people that know who Pitbull is. And the money that's going to come in later, closer to Friday, Saturday, those people I don't think are going to know who Pitbull is. A lot of them are not going to know. My brother did not know who Pitbull was. He watches every single UFC card, but he has no idea who Pitbull is. So I'm hoping, and I think that a little bit closer to Saturday, people are going to start betting Yair again. People are going to start betting that price down, and I'm hoping we can get to a plus 200 on Pitbull. And if we do, then I will get involved probably, because I do think there's takedown upside, and I do think there's a path for Pitbull even on the feet if he plays his cards right and targets the legs early and really puts an emphasis on forward pressure. All right. Before we move on, let's see what's going on in the chat. Kiwi saying Yair is overrated. Interesting. He's good, man. He's good. Yair likes chaos. Pitbull, good counter striker, and he's dog money. Yeah, and he's got some wrestling upside. All right, let's move on, though. Next up, we've got, I feel like this is the real main event. At least for most of us, I feel like this is the real main event. We got Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. Bryce, 17-2-0, 30 years old, 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. Silva, 15-2-0. He's 28. He's 2 years younger, 3 inches shorter, and he's at a 1-inch reach disadvantage. So, I mean, look, let's start with this. Bryce is an asshole. Bryce is stupid. And the things he said are horribly, just horrible. And I don't like the guy. I don't like the guy because of that. I mean, I don't know how you really can. And yeah, just not a fan. And I'm definitely a fan of Gene Silva. I love the dude. He's exciting. He's fun, and he's an awesome fighter. But I don't bet with my heart. I don't bet on who I like. I bet on who's going to win. I do kind of wish I got to Bryce Mitchell when he was like plus 370, plus 350. I wish I taped it back then, and if I had, I probably would have played him, because again, I don't bet. I try not to bet with my heart. I try to bet on guys who I think are going to win or can win, and if the price is off, I bet numbers. So I do wish I got to that price tag, and you know, at plus 200, there's a possibility that this might end up looking like big value. There's a possibility that Silva can't handle the grappling. There is. We haven't really seen him tested there, but there are a few things I want to talk about. The main thing is, I think everybody's heard it now. It's going around like hot fire. Everybody's saying, oh, we just saw what happened with Pat Sabatini and Brito. Brito, explosive Brazilian power puncher. Sabatini, grappler with not the best chin. And Sabatini cooked him and looked like a huge favorite. I was on Sabatini. I don't think this is the same matchup at all, personally. Brito, while Brito is good, I don't think he's comparable to Silva, unless you're saying like, oh, both of these guys hit hard. So, yeah. I mean, like, come on. Brito's a gas bag. Brito has always struggled with cardio. He always slows down. Brito has struggled with grappling in the past. We've seen him grind it out by guys. We've seen him grind it out by Bill Algeo, who used some grappling in there. We've seen him get taken down by JSP and controlled and kind of just doing whatever he wants until Brito ended up getting that sub. And I just feel like it's kind of lazy capping to be like, oh, it worked for Sabatini, similar matchup. Strong Brazilian power puncher, same thing. I think Silva's cardio is leagues ahead of Brito's. I think that Silva as a fighter just overall is better than Brito. I think that Brito is a guy who's also very low output on the feet and often is looking to counter. And that's going to give a wrestler a lot more opportunity to operate, a lot more room to operate, and a lot more opportunities to get those takedowns and to shoot. If you're constantly putting out offense and you're putting the wrestler on their back foot, that's a different story. Did you see Brito moving forward and backing up Sabatini and throwing constant output? No, you didn't. He was kind of just waiting to go and throw that one big shot. That's not going to be Silva here. Silva's not going to just stand there and wait. Silva's going to go, 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 go. Now, you can argue Silva going too hard and overextending could lead to Mitchell getting takedowns, and that's possible for sure. But I just think that there's a huge difference between Brito, who's just standing there waiting to counter, and who historically just doesn't throw a lot of output, compared to a guy like Silva, who does throw a ton of output, who's constantly on the front foot, and who's just not going to let up. I think there's just a huge difference. And there was a good amount of reason looking at Brito to think that Brito can be taken down and controlled and grounded out, and that the cardio dynamic could be a problem against the grappler. I don't have that same kind of information to look at Gene Silva and be like, yes, grappling heavy game plan, that's going to tire him out. Like, yes, I've seen him taken down and controlled many, many times. I don't have that. I know everybody and their mother is posting the clips of Silva being taken down by what's his name? By Charles Jourdain. Everyone's saying like, oh, if Charles Jourdain can take you down, Bryce Mitchell can take you down. Again, super lazy capping. Just somebody who's probably not taping, probably not doing much work, who's just looking at UFC stats, who's looking at Tapology and just going for it and telling you something. Like, yes, Charles Jourdain took him down three times. Did he control him? No. I think he got like just over a minute of control time over those three attempts. And then you also have to consider, was Gene Silva preparing for a wrestling approach? No. Jourdain doesn't wrestle normally. So Gene Silva wasn't prepared for it. He wasn't expecting it. And that's one of the best times to bust it out and go for the takedowns. So good on Jourdain to do that. But Jourdain's not a wrestler. That's not his primary game plan, and that's not what Gene Silva was thinking about. If you think for a second this dude's not at his fight camp training the takedown defense, training the underhooks, training on what to do if he gets taken down, training on how not to give up the back, then I don't know what to tell you, because I'm pretty confident he is. He's preparing. He's had, what is it? When was his last fight? 2 months ago? 1 month ago. So he fought about a month and a week ago, and the fight was made like 1 week later. So he's had about a month to prepare for Bryce Mitchell. I think that he's going to be okay. I think the takedown defense is going to hold up. I am a little worried about if the fight does hit the mat, what happens, because Mitchell is a good wrestler. He's an elite grappler. His jiu-jitsu is very, very good. His control on the ground is very, very good. So I could see him holding down Silva. I don't necessarily think he's going to submit him, but I mean, it's possible. I just haven't really seen Silva tested that much down there. So I don't know. But on the feet, I mean, I think it's not even close. Mitchell's a serviceable striker. He's not bad. He's better than Sabatini, for going back to that comparison. Sure, he's a better striker than Sabatini. Doesn't take much, though, to be a better striker than Sabatini. But I don't think Mitchell's a comparable striker to Gene Silva. Gene Silva hits incredibly hard. His speed is just disgusting. He's incredibly fast. His combinations are really, really nice. He's always creating angles, angling off after strikes. His defense is good. I'm really high on Gene in general. I'm not normally a guy who buys into the aura, but I'm 100% bought into the aura here with Gene Silva. So, yeah, I think he wins. I think he's going to get it done. But do I want to lay minus 250 to find out if his ground game is good enough to hang against Bryce Mitchell? No, I don't really want to do that. I'm not dying to go and find that out, because you lay minus 250 on Gene Silva hoping for a knockout. Like, the only way he really covers that price is if he knocks out Bryce. And he could knock out Bryce. But do I want a minus 250 ticket just praying for a knockout? Like, he can win a decision too. Of course he can, if he can keep it on the feet and just outstrike Bryce over 15 minutes, if Bryce Mitchell's chin holds up. But I don't think I can pay minus 250 to find out if his ground game is good enough. At the same time, do I want to take the shot at plus 205 on Bryce? Not really. I don't really want to do that either. I just personally, like, my gut is telling me Silva's going to win. And at plus 200, I just don't know if that number is good enough for me at this point where, like I said, like if I had gotten that plus 350 or that plus 400, I probably would have put everything aside and I probably would have just bit the bullet and bet on Bryce. But plus 205 is not enough for me. So I'm going to stay away. I'm personally going to stay away. If money keeps coming in on Bryce and this price really goes out, like really goes somewhere crazy, and like it gets closer to, I don't know, like I'd bet Gene minus 150. I'd probably do that. That I think I could do. The totals are kind of interesting. Not really the under, but like maybe the overs. Because if you think Bryce is winning, I don't really think Bryce subs him. I lean towards Bryce winning a decision. Bryce isn't really submitting anybody who's on the bet, who's like good. It's not really subbing anybody who are like Emmett knocked him out. That's fine. Ige, he didn't sub him. Topuria, like he lost whatever. Didn't sub Raposo. Before that, I think was Feely. Didn't sub Feely. Who was before that? Charles Rosa. Didn't submit Charles Rosa. So I don't really think he's going to submit Silva. So I can, like, that over might be something at plus money, at plus 130. But we've also seen Mitchell kind of break with forward pressure and hard shots from Topuria. I don't think Silva's on the level of Topuria, and he's not as well-rounded. But I could see him breaking Bryce. So all of that breakdown just to say that I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass, and I'm going to root for Silva to knock out this piece of shit, Bryce Mitchell. That would be a great thing. It would definitely feel nice, but I don't need money on it. I'm good to watch it as a fan. I just hope that he fucks up Bryce, because that would be good. That would feel nice. And we can move on. This fight's crazy. All right, real quick, let me catch up with the chat. Daz saying Demon Smash. This whole narrative now of like possession versus Bryce and his Bible, that presser is going to be crazy. That press conference is going to be nuts. R.I.P. Bryce says Kiwi. Brito has no fight IQ. Absolutely not. Hoping for Mitchell round 1 finish for the Mike interview alone. I would be very surprised if he got it done in the first. Kiwi saying this fight won't happen. I really hope it happens. That'll be a lot more fun. KO plus 110. Not bad. It was nice knowing you, Bryce, indeed. I mean, I hope he doesn't die, but I do want him to get knocked out. Whoa, what, Jesse? Daz laughing. Okay, did I say something? All right, moving on. We got Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. Chandler, 23-9-0, 38 years old, 5'8" with a 71.5-inch reach. Paddy, 22-3-0. He's 30, so he's 8 years younger. He's going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage. So I like Chandler here. I haven't made a play yet. I'm kind of just trying to figure out what's going to happen with this line and just trying to feel it out. But I'll probably get there. I like Chandler to win. I think he's going to get it done. I know everybody's low on him. I know everybody's pointing their fingers saying, oh, look, his wins are all terrible. He only beat Tony Ferguson, and he only beat Dan Hooker, and he knocked him out early. If Paddy fought the people that Michael Chandler has fought, how would that have gone for him? If Paddy made his UFC debut against Dan Hooker, how do you think that goes? If Paddy's fight after Dan Hooker is a title fight against Charles Oliveira, how do you think that goes? How do you think Paddy versus Justin Gaethje goes? How do you think Paddy versus Dustin Poirier goes? Does he win any of those fights? Does he beat Charles Oliveira in his current form that just beat Michael Chandler? His record will look just like Chandler's, but worse, because I think he'd lose to Hooker. So that narrative is just stupid, in my opinion. That's a stupid narrative. And Paddy's wins aren't any good either. I feel like Paddy's best win, personally, I think his best win is Luigi Vendramini, because I think that guy's good, and he knocked out Luigi. But Luigi hurt him first in that fight, and then Paddy just kind of blitzed forward and knocked him out. But that's probably his best win, in my opinion. Rodrigo Vargas, okay. Jordan Levitt, fine. Jared Gordon, robbery of the century, pointless. Tony Ferguson, that was a horrible look, in my opinion. He should have finished Tony, and he just gassed out and looked horrible. He looked horrendous in the third round. And then Bobby Green, yeah, he looked good, I guess. The grappling looked elite, but he's always been a really good jiu-jitsu player, always. But here's the thing, like, how is he beating Chandler? Like, what's the angle here? Because also, don't forget, this is a 5-round fight they're doing. They're doing a 5-rounder, which I'm a little confused about, because there's no question of who they want to win. They could care less about Michael Chandler, obviously. They had him in the wings waiting for a Conor McGregor fight that was never going to happen. And, like, they don't give a crap about Michael Chandler. They care about Patty. They've been slowly building this guy up. I mean, when did he make his debut? More than 3 years ago. I think it was closer to 4 years ago. And they've been slowly building him up for this very moment where they have a guy who's ranked. He's on the older side and a guy that they think he can possibly beat. But I'm not sure why they would do it 5 rounds unless they're like ready to throw Patty into the title picture next, which would be really stupid. But I don't know why it's 5 rounds, and I think that really benefits Michael Chandler. I think Chandler's cardio is way better than Patty's. Has Chandler slowed down? Yes. But we're talking about wars. We're talking about absolute wars that he's been in against guys who will bring it to him on the feet. Justin Gaethje, war, where Chandler looked great early, won the first round, and then slowed down. Dustin Poirier, war. Chandler wins the second, loses the first, and then gets subbed in the third once he slows down a bit. Charles Oliveira, he just went 5 rounds against Charles. Charles was on his back for maybe 20 minutes. Didn't sub him. And Chandler had the energy to stand back up with Charles on his back twice and do stupid Michael Chandler things, but the cardio's there is my point. And I think he's clearly got the better cardio out of the two of them. I think that 5 rounds definitely favors Chandler. And then I'm looking at it and like the only thing Patty has over Chandler, in my opinion, is a submission grappling. But like, is Patty going to take Chandler down? I'd be really surprised if Patty could take down Chandler. First of all, who does Patty take down? He went 1-4 against Tony Ferguson. He took down Levitt, okay. Bobby Green took himself down for some reason. Who else was it? Let me pull it up. Like, I don't think he's gotten more than 1 takedown. Yeah, he hasn't. He hasn't gotten more than 1 takedown in any UFC fight. 25% takedown accuracy. Ferguson, like I said, yeah, 1-4. 1 out of 4. Jared Gordon, I think it was 0-3. Yeah, it was 0-3. Vargas, he took down. Oh, he was 1-2, but then he subbed him quick, so that's fine. And Vendramini, that was just a war right away, but he did shoot twice, it turns out. Patty's wrestling isn't good. His jiu-jitsu is really good, but his wrestling is not. And I don't know where this came from that he's going to take down Chandler and sub him. How? How is he going to take Chandler down? Chandler has really good takedown defense. And Oliveira was on his back for what, 3-4 rounds and didn't submit Chandler. So I'm supposed to be like, yeah, Patty will because Dustin Poirier did. Matchups make fights. Poirier set it up with the hands. Chandler got tired because they were at war. What the hell is Patty going to do on the feet? Pitter-patter leg kicks? That's what he was doing to Bobby until Bobby shot a takedown for whatever damn reason. It was pitter-patter leg kicks, an occasional jab, and an occasional straight right. That's it. He's not putting together combinations. He's not a high output guy. Usually, if he is doing a combo, it's literally just this, a flurry, and he runs forward. The chin is up like this. 40% striking defense. Chandler's isn't much better, but again, against who? But I just think that Chandler can take a shot better. I think that Chandler hits a lot harder. I think that Chandler's a better striker. I think that Chandler's got better cardio. I think Chandler's fought the better competition. And I think Chandler's a better minute winner. And if anybody gets takedowns, I think it'll be Chandler. And then you might be like, yeah, but what if he gets subbed like Bobby Green did? And he could. But I don't really think I don't think most people are subbing Chandler. And I don't really think Patty's going to sub Chandler. I just don't think he's going to be able to create that same kind of chaos And I just personally don't see it. Like, I don't see it. I think Chandler's going to get it done. I haven't gotten to a play yet. I'm just trying to figure out this price and this movement. But I think I really do think Chandler's going to win. Like, I really do. Like, I've been trying my best to figure out, like, what does the Patty win even look like to me? And I don't know what it looks like to me. It would have to be like Chandler shoots the takedown, gets it. I guess it would have to look like the Bobby Green fight, because I don't really know how else. Or just a highway robbery again, where Chandler beats him up for 5 rounds and then they give the decision to Patty anyways, because Dana does that nod that he did to what's his name? Forget the guy who owns Barstool and does all that stuff. But you guys remember that? That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And if you watch my stuff, you know that I don't really believe in fixed fights, and I don't really think that kind of stuff is going on, at least not often. But that was probably the worst visual Dana could have possibly ever done. And the fact they showed him on the cameras while he did it was just crazy. Like, if you haven't seen it, go look at the Jared Gordon fight. You don't have to watch the fight. Just skip towards the end, right before they read the decision. The camera pans to Dana White and what's his name? What's the name of the dude, the Barstool guy? I don't follow these things, so I don't remember his name. But Dana literally looks at him, and then, like, they're concerned. Dave Portnoy, right? Portnoy's concerned. You can see it on his face. He's like, "What, Dana? What?" And then Dana's just like, "Don't worry," just giving them that nod. And then they read the scorecards, and Dana's just like, "Yeah, told you." That was crazy. That was the first time ever where I was like, maybe they do fix fights or scorecards or something. I don't know. I've always tried to believe it was all clean, but that was sus. That was really sus. And I guess if they're going to do it, they'll do it here. They obviously don't care about Michael Chandler. So, yeah. But at the end of the day, like, am I going to scare myself off of a play because of the possibility of him getting robbed? No. If Chandler was chalk, if he was like minus 150, no, I wouldn't play him, because then, I'm betting on a much older guy who could maybe get caught in something, or they could rob him. But at plus 125, plus 130, 140, whatever I end up playing, I'm not going to sweat it that much if he gets robbed. Like, if he gets robbed, I'll be pissed, but it is what it is. Can't really scare yourself off of dog plays because maybe they rig a fight. I don't really know. But yeah, I like Chandler to win. I have a hard time visualizing what a Patty win even looks like personally. That's my personal opinion. Chandler 145 for the win. That's a nice line you got. Chandler gets the Conor fight if he takes the... Conor's never fighting in the UFC again. I don't think he's ever fighting again, but definitely not in the UFC. Have you guys seen the videos of this guy? He's so far gone. UFC could give Patty the decision, and it's 5 rounds. They could. You never know. You never know. Patty strikes like Ronda Rousey. Hey, give Ronda Rousey some credit. After 24 minutes, Chandler will still be trying to finish. Exactly. The dude's got a lot of cardio. Not often. Define often. Are you talking about the rigging thing? I don't know, bro. I don't think most fights are rigged, but I also don't know. 5 rounds of Chandler cheating sounds like a good point deduction bet. Shout out Lou Bet. Yeah. Shout out Lou Bet you for sure. And that's funny. I was actually thinking this in my car drive home today from work. I was like, because I taped it earlier today, and I was like, damn, Chandler's probably going to cheat a good amount. So over 5 rounds, you got a good chance of getting that point deduction prop hitting. And they're usually what, like plus 2,000, I think they do it for. Let's see. Local man shakes fist, says, lucky for Chandler, his path is not going to require a scorecard. Yeah, I mean, I think he can knock out Patty, but I think, like, me personally, if you tell me the fight goes to the decision and the judging isn't screwed, I think Chandler's going to win that. I'm going to assume that Chandler had won if you tell me that. Evan saying, I like Chandler too. That makes me feel better, Evan. And what's good, bro? Good to see you in the chat. All right, let's move on to the main event. Spent enough time on that. We've got Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. Alexander Volkanovski's 26-4-0. He's 35 years old. 36 years old, 5'6" with a 71-inch reach. Lopes, 26, 6-0, 30. He's 6 years younger, 5 inches taller at 5'11", and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. What a fight. What an interesting fight. I still remember when Dana announced it, and he announced that Topuria is moving up and vacating the belt. It was so nuts. And just a matchup nobody really expected to ever happen. Volk versus Diego Lopes, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I feel like this is pretty binary. I feel like it's Lopes early, Volk late. You can say that's kind of lazy capping, or just like square, but that's kind of how I feel. I know that, Lopes is improving and he's young and he has really gotten better since, he lost to Brito and then he lost to Nate Richardson of all people before coming into the UFC. Yeah, he's improved a lot and he's had a lot of fights and he's been very active, and, props to him for really high rolling this and getting into a title shot before the guy who beat him in his UFC debut. So, props to him, and he has improved a lot, but I have to go from what I see, and from what I see, Diego Lopes to me still doesn't seem to have the best gas tank. He still doesn't seem to be the best minute winner. He did a good job against Ortega, but Ortega's no threat on the feet at all. So on the feet, he could do whatever he wants. And then he just kind of muscled Ortega around and just beat up on him. But he slows down. He really does slow down. And like the Dan Ige fight, I know I've already heard the people making the excuses for Lopes, like, oh, he also took it on short notice. He took it on 2 weeks short notice. Okay, sure. But he had 2 weeks. Ige had a half hour. It was like an hour or a half hour. He weighed in the back and then came out and made the walk and then won the third round. I've also seen the argument that Diego lost the third round because he didn't care because he knew he won the first two. Maybe. But that's a terrible strategy if you're in the UFC, because we all know how judging is. And can you imagine if you're a fighter who purposely rests on their laurels in the third round, is like, I'm fine, I won the first two, and then two bad judges give the other round to the other guy when you could have won the third? That's just bad fight IQ. If that's your reasoning for why he lost the third round to Ige, to me, that's just another red flag. I don't think that's the case. I think he just gassed out because I don't think he has the best cardio, and that's where I'm at. But look, there are a ton of concerns with Volk. Volk's old. Volk's 36 years old. He's coming off of 2 knockout losses. I know they're Topuria and Islam, but a knockout's a knockout, and that's going to affect your chin, and that's going to hurt you. So I am really concerned about the durability, and I do think that Diego can knock him out early. I think 100% Diego's very, very live in the first round to knock out Volk. I think he's probably live to knock out Volk in the second round. But personally, call it square, whatever you want. I think if it leaves the second, Volk is going to be the one who I'm going to be a lot more comfortable with, who I think is going to have the much better cardio, who I think is going to be the much better minute winner, who I know has all the 5-round experience, has gone 5 rounds many, many times against the highest caliber opponents possible. One of the craziest takes I'm seeing this week is people saying the Volk's wins aren't even good. And I'm not even going to give that opinion time, because God bless you if that's you. But yeah, I'm picking Volk. I think Volk's going to win. I think he's the better striker. I think he's the better minute winner. I think he can take down Lopes. Like, to me, there's still the path of beating Lopes. You take him down and you stay safe. Brito did it. Nate Richardson kind of did that. Not really, though. He also won in the striking. Ige did that in the third. He was on top for a lot of that round, if I'm remembering that right. And I just think that if you can take him down and if you can stay safe from the submission attempts, that's how you win minutes against Diego. Or one of the ways you can win minutes against Diego is you take him down and you stay safe. And Volk, in my opinion, has really high-level jiu-jitsu defense. We all saw the positions that Ortega put him into, and the positions that he fought out of and got out of and then beat the crap out of Ortega. And I just think I think he's going to be okay. I do think he can be knocked out. I do think that Lopes can win early. I think Lopes is a stud. He's got all the aura. I'm a fan of his. He's a lot of fun. He's explosive. He's a good scrambler, elite jiu-jitsu, and a guy who's improving, and the sky's the limit with him. But where I'm at right now is I still think Volk's going to win the fight. I'm picking him to win. I made this bet before I ended up going behind the paywall, so I guess it's my free bet of the week. I bet Volk early on, and I'm so bad at line movement. I'm getting better these days, but my God, I bet Volk at -158. He's pick him now. If this is anything like my all my usual bets, then reverse CLV usually is good for me. And when I get CLV, I normally lose my bets. I have that curse, but I got reversed on Volk, so that's a good sign. I got extremely reversed. And considering the fact that I was down to bet him at -158, I should be down to add at Pick'em, but I don't really want to, because even though, you know, I said everything I said, that Volk's a better minute winner, and Volk I think will be fine, and Volk I think should win, and he's a better striker. Like, I'm not going to discount Diego Lopes either. I'm not going to come out here and throw 3 units on Volk when I think Lopes can knock him out early. Lopes is really good early. He's very explosive, and he's a good striker, and that striking game has developed a lot. He's gotten a lot better. He's really rounded out his skill set. But, yeah, so that's why, like, I don't really want to add. But, obviously, if I bet -158 and you're considering it and you do like my bets, I think, obviously, -125 is a good play then, because that's a lot better than what I got. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I think that if you're going to play Diego, you're probably better off doing round 1, 2, or 3 finishes, maybe some kind of combination. I don't know what those odds will look like. I don't even get them offered to me here in New York, but that's something, because I have a really hard time seeing Diego win a decision, and I have a hard time seeing him finish Volk late when Volk has fantastic cardio and is a really, really good minute winner, and he knows how to just, like, expand the gap over the stretch of a fight. Like, he knows how to make it wider and wider and wider, where to the point where he's clearly winning by the time that fight is done. So, yeah, for me, it's Volk or pass. I don't really want to, like, obviously I already have money on Volk, but like Diego was never really somebody I wanted to bet here. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I like Volk. It's Volk or pass, and that's all I got. If he gets knocked out, he gets knocked out. I understand that's 100% a distinct possibility, maybe even a club and sub. But for me, I think Volk will be all right. All right, let's see what we got in the chat, and then we'll get out of here. I'll go through the picks one more time, and then we'll jump out. Evan saying Ige had a fight booked 4 weeks out. He was mid-camp. Yeah, I guess, but he wasn't, like, preparing for a fight that day. Lopes was. But yeah, it's fair enough. But yeah, I still think that Lopes's cardio isn't that great, and I personally tend to think that if it leaves the second, it's going to be Volk who takes over. Maybe it's a live betting opportunity on Volk. Maybe that's another angle you could do. See if he gets knocked out in the first or second round and then get in. But the problem with that is, like, would it be crazy if Volk was winning from the first round? Not really. Kiwi saying Lopes 1, 2, 3 is 200 plus 245. I don't hate that. I don't hate that. All right, let's run through the picks and we'll get out of here. It's been an hour now. This one I have to tape more. No real pick. Look out for my shorts if you want just the pick. The shorts will probably come out tomorrow, and by then I'll have taped it fully. I guess I'll go Cornolle, but it's dog or pass from what I remember, because grappling upside, but not much interest in that one. Tulio, Sumudaerji, Michal, Erosa, Hooper, Virna, Woodson, but dog or pass. Krylov, Yair, but dog or pass. Gene, Chandler, Volk. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you guys next time.